Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 250 at scavengerlife.com.
Live from Trash Shelf Studios. Someone, Parker, emailed us and said we should start saying that. But
Trash Shelf Studios, our living room couch.
Yep, with our cat who's cleaning herself.
Yeah, she's having a little bath.
Okay, so this is going to be about our week selling on eBay and now a little bit on Amazon.
Yes.
And we hope that you're photographing or listing or packing right now. Excuse me, because that makes us feel much better to think like people are being very proactive.
At least you guys are working.
Yeah. Well, today's our Saturday, so it's a little bit of our day off. A little bit of a day off.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's snowing, so.
Yeah, and if you've chosen to sell on eBay as your profession, then you found the right people. Because that's what we do for a living. We sell on eBay full time. And now we started doing some Amazon.
Yes.
And we've been doing this since 2008-ish, you know?
It's been a while.
Yeah. I'm finally... It took about 3 or 4 years, but I'm finally at the point where I just feel like this can happen, you know? Like I always felt like, oh, we'll just go back to working for other people at some point.
Yeah, it hasn't.
This can't go on.
Hasn't happened yet.
Yeah,
really.
Which is amazing.
Yeah,
you know?
It's amazing.
And we actually had a call that he encapsulated my concerns, so it's going to be good to hear his question and answer that. Because I had the same concerns starting out. Mm-hmm. All right. I did want to start off by talking about why we do this. Sometimes I feel like, especially in the comments, it gets easy to get caught up in selling, and who's doing it the best, and like who's the most efficient, and who's making more money. And I mean, for us, I think the overall goal sometimes gets lost in the conversation. You know, that our goal, or at least mine is, I'd love to hear your goal.
Yes,
is a low stress life.
Yes,
you know, that's why we moved to a rural area. That's why we, you know, stop working for other people and scavenge to sell online. I mean, that's really the whole point.
Yep.
You know, as long as we're making the money we need to make at the end of each month to do what we want to do.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Right.
You know?
I mean, that is literally the whole point.
Right.
Because if I wanted a not low stress life, I would commute into the city for a job. You know, I mean.
Yeah, and sometimes I feel like when we, you know, like we have a rental and people are coming in and staying, and we always meet people and talk to them and just figure out their lives. You know, and people are very. It always amazes me how much energy people have and what they're willing to do to make money in their life. So much schooling, and then a lot of work, traveling to do the work. I'm just like, I think sometimes people don't realize like that's a choice, you know, and I don't know. I feel happy that we were able to see that there's a different choice.
Yeah.
You know,
selling old dirty shoes on the internet.
That's our joke, everybody. We always talk about that's what we do. Is we sell old shoes on the internet.
Some people in the comments were getting really freaked out about selling old shoes this week, so that's why I brought it up. Yeah,
I want to say this is. So we bought another house. We fixed it up, all with eBay profits. And we started to rent it. It's last year.
It's a vacation rental.
So we've had a year for that. And now we're starting like our second year. You know, it's springtime, and that's when it's starting to get really packed, and I love it. And this is the first time I've really felt the ease of having that second income stream, you know?
Yeah.
Like...
In what way? Like, there's not as much pressure, on this eBay?
I mean, I'm starting to realize, like, this is what, you know, we spent 3.5 years with a vision of, like, can we take the money we're making on eBay, you know, if we make a little bit more extra every month, let's put it towards another business. Right. And can then that start generating its own income? Right. And it's really happening. You know?
It actually worked.
You know, I'm not saying that we slack off on eBay, but it's nice to have another income stream.
Right, exactly.
But then at the same time, I'm feeling also the pull of money, the need of money, because we then bought a second rental, and now we're redoing that, and We have grand visions of what we want to do with it, and it gets expensive.
It gets expensive, man.
Throw $1,000 here, a couple $1,000 there.
Yeah, I mean,
$12,000 its roof, and I can feel it's just like the old days when we did the first one. Is like our eBay business is like this cash engine.
Yeah.
It's cranking out the cash.
Right.
We live really frugally, so we, have profit at the end of every month, and now we're taking this profit and we're now throwing this at this second house.
Yep.
And so, we'll see what it sounds like in maybe a year.
Yeah.
When we get done with that one and have it is rented, and then the excitement and the ease in my voice, I hope, is just so amazing because we'll have 2 extra income streams,
right. And hopefully the whole point is so that we can start paying off the debt we've incurred in buying these properties.
Yeah.
So that's the dream.
Right.
Pay those off in 5 years.
Yeah.
And then something else will happen, you know.
Very true. Yeah, but it is amazing that the mortgage on these rental homes we had are really low compared to the money we make each month. So so far it's working out.
It's doable. That's why we were able to take 3 years to renovate that other house. Like, if the mortgage was killing us, we'd be like, rent it now, quick,
Yeah, but that's a whole other thing. We have a whole other podcast if you want to hear about our rentals. I just wanted to mention it because it does have to do with our eBay business.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know, especially people just getting started, I hear the stress in people's voices that things aren't selling enough, I'm not making enough, it's money, and I get that. I guess we're just trying to give a voice to, when you start doing this for a long time, if you start, having different strategies about how to make its money. It doesn't have to just be eBay.
Right, exactly. And I feel like we've been hearing from other people that, that are eBay sellers that are starting to do rentals too. So it's kind of cool that other people are discovering that as well.
So this podcast is going to be all about feelings.
I have lots of feelings about stuff that happened this week on both platforms. So.
Here is another feeling I have.
Yes.
This week I had a real feeling of satisfaction.
Good.
And it only comes from selling on eBay. Only other people on eBay can know it's what I'm talking about. I've been talking about, we've been doing death piles, and we've been doing it since last summer. So we're coming up, we're going to be almost a year of doing death piles because we had been collecting stuff for 3 to 4 years of stuff. We're always, it's listing, but it's so easy to get more than you can list. And so I've been tackling specifically these death piles, and I had all these books and ephemera.
Oh, man.
And I'm just about done. I'm not quite done. I'll get a lot done today, I hope, but I'm almost done. And it's just such a feeling of satisfaction that these piles that have been sitting there for a couple of years are now going to be on eBay.
Yeah, they'll be for sale and they'll start selling.
Yep. And, the only way I do it is I do it in groups of 20. I get 20 like items, take those photos, write descriptions. That takes me an afternoon.
Put them away.
And just do it one day at a time.
Yep. And then it gets done.
Yep.
Eventually.
And you had some good days too, like tackling all the Amazon stuff.
Yeah, I'll talk about Amazon, but it's great because Amazon stuff, because it's temporarily in your office or your house, it just kind of piles up all crazy because you're like, okay, I'm gonna send this stuff in. It's like a mountain of stuff, and there were a couple days where I was like, I just have to get this. I just got to get this done. Yeah. Scan that stuff.
We'll talk a bit more about that, and you can kind of talk about that, its process.
Yeah.
So, the other thing this week is we had, last week we talked about we went to the very first yard sale in our town.
Yes.
And we had a great day, got a lot of stuff. We had another good day of scavenging this week. And, it's one of these days where I'm sure other people have had this, where it just kind of happens by accident,
Yeah.
We weren't planning for a big day of scavenging. We just stopped off at a place.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And we got a truckload of stuff for under $200.
It was incredible. Plus, one of those items was a beautiful piece of mid-century furniture. It was a dresser basically that dresser, I had it pictured in my head, and we found it. And we were like, this is for the new house.
Yep.
And it was on sale, 75% off. It was $36.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
I mean, you can't buy a piece of junk.
You can't buy IKEA
board,
furniture for $36.
Walmart furniture for $36. Yeah, so
beautiful dresser.
It was great. You know, that's one reason why we tell ourselves it's okay that it takes us a while to redo houses the way we want it. It gives us time to scavenge things instead of being in a rush and going and just buying everything new.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, we got not only that piece of furniture, but all this other boxes. Stuff to sell on both Amazon and eBay.
Yes.
And that's the thing I've been enjoying about Amazon. It just gives us a new set of eyes in things I normally wouldn't have bought for eBay. I'm now willing to buy for Amazon because I know we can send it in.
You found some really good stuff, actually.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about about Amazon. And this is, we're eBay people. I feel that in my bones.
Yes.
But you're going to hear about eBay people learning about Amazon FBA.
Right.
So I do want to say last week I was very wrong about something and people were good to correct me on the blog. I was talking about how FBA, like the storage, I was like,
it's just free.
We're just sending stuff in and we don't have to worry about it. I don't know why I said that. I knew that there are storage fees.
Yeah.
But
they're minimal.
But like people said, though, it's very small. As long as you don't have multiples of stuff that then get the long-term storage fees, which is a lot of money. If you're just sending individual items, it's very small. Like, I hear people talk about they have, 2,000 items and it costs them $30 a month or something. But I guess just my point was it is cheap to keep stuff in Amazon storage.
Right.
And it's just amazing that they're willing to do that, And so we could just like eBay, start sending in hundreds and hundreds of items.
Yeah.
And just let them deal with it and just
that's kind of the whole point.
Yeah.
I'll talk a little bit more about that because I've been running into issues about that, but pretty much that is kind of the beauty of FBA.
Yep. And it's interesting, and so we're having people on the blog, we're starting to talk about Amazon a little bit, and we have a couple of guys that are talking about they sell books.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. They say they sell a bunch of books every week.
Right.
30 books or so. And they're selling them for like $35 each. So after all the fees, because FBA fees are really expensive, they probably net about $25 a book. And so they're saying they're making about, $1,600 every 2 weeks because that's Amazon's payout schedule.
Right.
And that's after all the fees. I mean, that's
amazing.
That's pretty incredible because we rarely find books that sell for $35.
I mean, I found a couple that are high, but they're super long tail. And you're like, this, I can't even find a sales ranking on this. That's how,
Yeah.
It's like, should I even send this in? It's never going to sell.
Well, it definitely is a different beast. I mean, it's like I find myself now going through our listings that are on FBA, and I look at sales rank, and I look at the price,
right?
And it shows you the lowest price that other people have, and the idea is you lower the price to it's match that price or to try and get the buy box,
And that's worked several times for you.
Yeah.
Like, within 5 minutes.
Well, like this morning, I went through and I was changing its prices, lowering its prices, and something sold. It's within 10 minutes of me changing the price. I mean, and the reason why Amazon's such a different beast is we all share the same item page.
Yes.
And so really it's all about price. Amazon even sends us emails or notifications of, like, lower this price, you know? And if it's just $1 or $2, I'll do it, just because, why not? I mean,
try it,
at this point, I don't know, Amazon is just like this new puzzle for us to kind of solve. And
I think this week we got better about looking at the different metrics, because at first I wasn't really looking at those. And when
a sales rank, you mean?
Yeah, it was like sales ranking. So like with Camel, and for, what's it called? Keepa. I actually use Keepa more because it's embedded in the page if I use Firefox. And so what it shows you is, because the sales ranking is directly tied to when it sells, because if it sells, the sales ranking goes down, meaning up. It's a better sales ranking. So confusing. The number goes lower, which is better. And you see that chart. And you're like, okay, this item sells at least once a month, at least twice a month, whatever. So you're like, great, this is a good thing to buy and to send in. So I hadn't really been paying attention to that. But the reason was we had gotten a bunch of, like, we talked about it, vintage textbooks. And I hadn't been looking at that until this week where I'm like, oh.
We were definitely sending in stuff that probably have not been bought in 5 years.
Yeah.
That have like
there's no ranking. There's no information. 5 people have them merchant fulfilled, and you're just like, oh God, But
just it's real quick before we get into like its process. I mean, this experience of doing Amazon FBA to me makes me feel like eBay is a much more seller
platform.
Site. Yeah, I think it's better for people who sell.
Right. Okay.
I mean.
Yes.
I know things sell really well on Amazon and people love it. But as far as like control, I think eBay gives the people who sell much more control. Because each person that sells has to make their own listing, and then we compete on many fronts. We compete on presentation, quality of the item, and price.
Right.
But that's so much different than just everyone just has the same photo. I mean, I know you can take your own photos, but...
You can make your own listing, but you're like, this is the one people find.
But, I mean, real quick, if there's already a listing for an item, can you just make another one? And just change the words around?
That's a really good question. I've tried to do that before, and it notices, like, even if you put your own UPC, and it's like, this is already listed. Right. Either you delete your listing, or you add it to the other one. So I've had that happen. Like, it feels like such a barrier sometimes.
Yeah. Well, it just, I mean, again, it's a different kind of puzzle.
Right.
I think the other thing why eBay's better for people that sell is that you can list anything.
Almost anything.
I mean, you can basically list anything. They may tell you can't do that.
Right.
But other than a listing, things that are fake, counterfeit, and some like firearms, and you can basically list anything, and that's why I love it. I also love that eBay's great because there's no sales rank. Like Amazon's really always reminding you this is popular, it's not popular. There's just this force trying to push the price down.
Yeah,
and eBay doesn't tell you what's popular really.
Right.
Especially for those of us selling vintage stuff, so we get to create the market.
Yeah, exactly. It really feels so different. Yeah. And I'll tell you why. This is the experience I had this week, where I was sending in tons of books. We had a bunch of books that were given to us from the yard sale guy, and we bought a bunch of really cool books that we had.
Bag sale books,
cheap. But we had been good about looking at sales rank, looking at what's on FBA, whatever. We were better about it this week, so I felt we got good, high-quality books to send in. So I get this whole thing ready, and the way I do it, just to get nerdy, and people who do FBA will know what I mean, I put them in my inventory as merchant fulfilled, and then I convert them. So I got 38 books in, right? That's a pretty good,
in an hour.
An hour, right? Yeah. So I'm like, cool, I'll get 2 little boxes together, good to go. So when I'm going through the conversion, they're telling me this. I'm going to read you the quote. You're already at the maximum inventory allowed for this product due to capacity or other restrictions. This product must be removed from this shipment. Now,
really annoying.
It was so obnoxious because they're already in my inventory. I've already scanned them in. I purchased them at the store. They're a high quality book. And Amazon's like, you can't send these in. Right. I had 38 and then my shipment got down to 22. Right. So it was 16 books that they told me.
I mean, I see it 2 ways. Number one is, I guess it's good they're telling you that because they're just saying it's no one's buying these.
Yes.
We don't want to hold it, and if you send it in, no one's going to buy it, so don't waste your time.
Right.
Okay, great. But the other thing is that when we're scanning, sometimes, when you scan an item on the Amazon app, it'll tell you, this item is, you're not allowed to sell this item because you aren't in health and beauty. Or
right, it's restricted. Yeah.
But it doesn't do that on the app. It should tell you, you can sell this merchant fulfilled, but you can't send it in because we have too many of them.
It's like they don't tell you until it's too late.
Right. And weren't you telling me on the messages it's a new thing or?
So this is what I kind of came up with, because so we've been doing this since January. That's only 2 months. This has not happened until this week. So to me, two things. Number one, I chatted with help and I was like, what's going on? And they sent me a link about quantity limits. Basically, Amazon is like cracking down, like, we don't want people who are sending in books just sending in, tons of books forever, the next 5 years. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Because when I went on the help boards on Amazon just to see if other people were talking about it, it was just within the last week. There were a ton of messages in the last couple days of people like, I can't send in half my shipment. So I just wonder if it's a tipping point with Amazon FBA. Like, so many sellers are trying it.
I wonder. It's just, I can't imagine. I mean, I know these warehouses are huge. They're like...
And they're everywhere.
They're like gigantic. But I mean, there seems like there has to be a limit if people are just sending in thousands of items.
Of long tail books.
So I don't know.
So it's frustrating because on eBay, I've never run into that ever.
Well, so I hear it right now. I hear them right now yelling at us. They're like, you can still sell them on Amazon.
On Merchant Fulfilled.
Merchant Fulfilled. So basically, we would be selling them like we do on eBay.
Right.
Just where we fulfill them ourselves. And so that's my thing. I'm like, so the ones that you aren't allowed to send in, keep them up as Merchant Fulfilled. We'll have like a box by at your desk.
Yeah.
And maybe every month or so, you can try and add them to a shipment and see if those restrictions have changed.
So here's my argument about that.
Yeah, what's your argument?
Part of the reason that it makes it valuable and, priced higher is, in my mind, because it's on FBA.
Right.
Because people who are shopping through Prime will pay a little bit more for those books.
Right.
But if you're like, hey, I'm the only one on FBA. Oh, I can't send it into FBA. There's 10 people who have it for $3 on Merchant Fulfilled. Now this book is worth nothing. Wow. So I have to go through those books.
Real quick. Do you think, or do you know, are they saying you can't send it in because too many people have it for sale, even if it's just on Merchant Fulfilled, or it's because too many have them into the warehouse? They
don't tell you.
Okay.
But the thing is, there are some of those books where I'm like, it's me and 2 other people have these in the warehouse, but maybe they're just like, it doesn't sell FBA. They haven't sold it in X amount of,
That is interesting if Amazon is starting to be like, we're going to decide what we want to let people sell because we don't think it's worth it,
Right. And Merchant Fulfilled, you can put however many you want, but it's just, it's very different, hitting those walls where you're like, I thought this was so easy. Now I have like all this like...
Well, it's like I always say, each of these selling platforms have their own quirks and kind of weird rules that you just have to learn by getting involved in it. And instead of crying about how I wish it was, you just have to accept the way it is and then just try and find it your way. I mean, again, it's like a maze.
Yeah. I mean, or you decide, okay, this is like way too much work, not enough profit, and I'm not selling on this platform anymore. Yeah. Because I really, after that happened, I was like, is this even worth it? Well, I don't even know.
I mean, it's just books, so I mean, we sell other things too.
Yeah, I'm hoping that those quantity limits don't happen to other, miscellaneous merchandise, which would suck because a lot of times you spend more money on that kind of merchandise. You know,
that's interesting.
I wonder. This is just a thought for other people. I wonder if people who do retail arbitrage ever come up against that, where they're like, I just bought 25 of these X items at Target, and then they're like, oh, they're not letting me send them in at all.
You can't send them in.
Or I guess you would just return them to Target. But I just wonder if that's been happening.
Yeah.
Or if it's just with books, if Amazon's like, don't send in these long tail books.
Yeah.
But our goal still is to send in 1,000 items to Amazon.
And we're almost there. We have 750 items in the warehouse now.
Yeah.
And we probably have at least 200 items on our floor that we just send in.
Yeah.
And the goal is to do it in a scavenger way.
Right.
So for the most part, we've just been doing it like we would buy on eBay.
Thrift store stuff, yeah.
Thrift store, yard sales.
Like, it's not retail arbitrage at all.
Yeah. And the goal is my goal is to start making $100 a day on Amazon after all the fees.
Yeah.
I mean, there are days where we make over $100, but then you do all the fees. It's basically like a third. They take a third.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is.
Yeah.
We'll see. Again, I'm kind of liking it because, again, it's just like a new game. That's really how it feels like.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into our numbers for this week. We'll base all of this in reality. Our week started off slow, and other people were talking about that, but it really ended well. I mean, we sold like 12 things yesterday. It's Saturday at noon. We've sold 5 things, several of them for over $100. So it's been a good. It started out slow and it ended well. Okay, our main eBay store. We have about 3,700 items in that store because we haven't been.
Whoa, that number's getting low.
We had 4,000 items. We haven't been listed in a couple months very much, so it's really been going down. But we still sold 33 items, and our total sales were about $1,200.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean the day isn't over yet, so it could grow a little more. On our second eBay store, we have about 900 items in that store. We sold 9 items for about over $300.
Yay!
So between our 2 stores, we sold about $1,500, which is good.
What about Amazon?
Real quick. So on eBay, I always love it when we make at least $200 a day.
Yeah.
And we did that. It's this week. If you had asked me on Thursday, we were making $100 a day.
Yeah.
So, like I said, things can change quickly. Amazon. We grossed about $350.
Okay, that's gross. That's
but then,
before fees.
Anyone that sells on Amazon, it's you're okay, cool, I sold all this, and then they start breaking down all the fees, shipping fees,
pick and pack,
their commission. Then, as we're sending in boxes, they take off the cost of
the shipping.
Shipping. So I don't know. We got to do the full experiment where we have a big enough inventory and then just see what happens.
Yeah. Now I do want to say this. I do like that. If it's starting out to be a slow week, it's interesting because it was slow on Amazon too. So it makes you feel, because you're on the 2 platforms, okay, it's not us on eBay. It's not people don't want to buy my stuff. Yeah. It's nobody's buying anything anywhere because Amazon's slow too until the end of the week, where stuff started picking up on both places. Yeah. So it's this weird retail world,
Just people aren't buying all the time, or we'll talk about it sometimes. But sometimes, the thing I always say is sometimes no one wants your stuff.
That's true.
That, and I know that might hurt people's feelings,
but it's not personal. It's just everything you have listed is just someone didn't want it that day.
Right.
That's it.
There's a big group of people standing around all of your stuff, and they're just no, I don't want it. No way. So some of the things we sold this week.
Yes.
We sold just this morning a vintage bread box for $100.
Yes. So this is interesting because, number one, this bread box is gorgeous. I think we paid almost $15 for it.
And it's got a copper front and then a baby blue steel backing.
Turquoise. To me, copper and turquoise, number 1, is super mid-century, and number 2 is super in style
and
right now. And
people love the copper. That's, the beautiful kind of gold tone copper.
Yeah, it's just really... Yeah. So the thing about these, it's called a beauty box. That's literally the brand name. Tons of these have sold on eBay for $15, $20.
Well, I mean, we brought it home and we did a search for it. And I'm people are selling these in auction for $15. I'm just what?
No way.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so this is a good example of how we price things. We were no. I mean, if you were to buy something like this at Restoration Hardware, it would be $250.
Yeah, exactly.
So we priced ours at $125. We priced it that way. We probably put it up a couple months ago.
Oh, not even. I think it was a few weeks ago.
Cool. And then we got an offer for $100, and we took it.
Yeah, I was that's the price I wanted.
And that's a good example of just, even if people are putting stuff on auction for pennies,
you can price it higher.
Their stuff is going to eventually all sell.
Right.
And then someone's going to show up and say, I want that box. All the cheap auctions have already been sold off, and yours is the last one standing.
Yeah.
And someone's going to want it,
Yeah. Another cool thing that sold that I showed in the video was this McDonald's mug, and it said McDonald's of Alaska, 1983.
Right.
And what was funny is the username, since we can't see people's, purchase history now, which really sucks because I'm like, oh, I'd love to see what this person bought. Their username was Mick Collector. So clearly they are a McDonald's collector. They paid $25 for this mug. I got it for free at our local thrift store.
Yeah, because there's a thrift store that we go to that has a big box out front by the door that always says free, and it's almost always just mugs. So before we go in, we always go through them, and we'll grab one or two each time. But it's a good example of, people talk about how they also buy mugs to sell, and just then they complain about how they don't sell well. It's kind of like with trucker hats.
Yes, similar.
I can't explain it. Like, why did this... I mean, we got this specific one because it's McDonald's, and
it's
because
the 80s.
You just assume, just from our experience, that there's a collector out there for McDonald's stuff, and there was.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we sold.
Well, the reason you said is because you found it at the thrift store, and you got it. So
it was like an LP, like an album.
Yeah.
A steel box.
It's like a carrier
and it was
travel
cool.
box.
It was like red steel.
Red and white.
Red and white.
It was very mod.
It probably holds like 12 LPs, and I knew like it was like candy, candy cane striped, and I'm just like, I can see some DJ kid bringing their
albums,
going to the club, and it's like for $40,
Yeah, I think we took an offer just because, first of all, boxes like that take up a lot of space.
Well, plus it was slow. I mean, again, when things are slow, we're much willing to do offers. Yeah,
so that was a great sale. Also, we had just listed that a couple of weeks ago. So
I did this last week too. I get down on selling clothes, and we have not taken pictures or listed jackets or any kind of clothes in a while, probably all season.
Yeah.
But like, we sold 4 jackets this week for $150 total, you know?
I was packing jackets this morning. Jackets, overalls. Like, I had to pack a bunch of clothes this week.
I didn't even add that in. I was just doing 4 coats, but we also sold like 4 shirts.
Yep.
For like $20 or $30 each. Pair of overalls for $50.
Maybe next week, for the numbers, just put together all the clothes and shoes.
Yeah.
Like, just so it's funny. It's like, those overalls have been in my inventory for over a year.
Right.
And they sold for $50.
Yep.
It's just like, great.
Clothes sell. We just got kind of tired of them, but I can't deny that's it puts food on our table.
Yeah, absolutely.
Puts food in our cat's bowl.
I know, right? Okay, so the last thing we'll talk about was this set of 4 framed artwork. It's they call it Cruel. I don't know why it's called that. I would love to know. I'm sure there are like 10 people that know. And they're needle points, and the set of 4 sold for $85. It was great because they matched. They were on a dark brown background. They were actually in the video this week, and they had these like silver metal frames,
and they were
really nice.
Just of like
floral. They were
different
flowers,
like flower things, and I got to give myself credit.
Yeah,
I found them.
Where did you find those? At thrift store?
At the thrift store.
Yeah.
Again, it's another one of these places where they just have like a corner where they just throw all their
artwork, the framed.
It's so much junk. No one wants to go through it, and I was going through it, and I was like, these are cool.
Yeah, they're cool.
And it's like I always say this. If you go to a place like IKEA, they have like right at the end, before you get out into where you have to go and pick up all of your furniture, they have all the artwork.
Yeah.
And it's expensive.
Right.
It's easily $40 for just a print.
Right. And there are millions of people that have that same print.
Right.
But that's what's cool about a piece like this. It's $85. It's handmade. It's one of a kind.
It probably took, it could have been a guy, but I bet it was...
I think it's probably a woman.
A woman. And it probably took her a winter of just sitting there, making these by hand. And then it's like they would have been thrown away,
Yeah, they would have been thrown away.
If
they're great. I love those.
So, real quick, there's one more thing. Ryan was trying to skip this because a lot of the stuff that sold, I found.
I'm not. It's not on the outline.
Trying to skip it and take away my glory.
It's blank.
We were at a thrift store, and I was looking at the tapes, you know?
Okay, sorry, yeah.
And, like and Steve was talking about how he buys all these used blank tapes, or even just used tapes and blanks them out. I found, it was cool. Carl Rogers is his name. It was like this, mid-century tape set.
Yeah.
And I don't know who he was.
Tapes.
It was like about psychology.
No, I know who he is.
Right. I mean, at the time, I didn't know who he was. But it was about like weird, like new age psychology, and it had these cool photos on it, and it was a complete set. And it's the place we go where stuff is like 50 cents. So I was like,
yeah, let's try it.
Let me grab
all the tapes were there and the booklets. So here's the thing. I didn't know who he was either until this week. And I went, maybe this person heard it on the radio too, although they were in the UK. It was on NPR, and they were talking about who Carl Rogers was, and they were talking about how back in the old days of psychology, Sigmund Freud would be like, I am in charge. I am telling you what you're thinking. And like,
it's while he's doing cocaine. He's like, let me tell you.
Exactly. So that's the way, therapy would work. But Carl Rogers was like, no, I think the patient should be in charge. I think the therapist should help, help the person figure things out.
Yeah, just hear them out.
Listen. Right. And that was huge. That happened in the 50s and 60s, where he started these workshops, and his daughter became a psychologist and helped start these summertime workshops that were known all over the world. And so, and it's funny because that this was just on the radio, and then someone in the UK messaged me and was like, how much is shipping to the UK?
And so they message you through Etsy, though, right? Is it on Etsy?
No, it's not on Etsy. Isn't that weird? What? They messaged me through Etsy, not eBay. And you're like, well, and so I just sent them the link back on eBay. Maybe they saw it on Google or something. Yeah. But why did they find me on Etsy? It's so weird. Yeah. Anyway, I was like, buy it through eBay. There should be shipping to the UK. And he bought it in 5 minutes. Yeah. So, and that was $40. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to skip that on the outline.
I need all the glory I can get.
That was a great set because it costs almost nothing.
Yeah. Okay, customer issues.
Okay,
Ryan.
so
Ryan has a lot of customer issues here. Okay. Go.
Now, this is not a customer issue. This is a seller issue on eBay. Someone messaged us last week, at the beginning of the week, and they were like, eBay took away calculated shipping off of the invoices. And at first I was like, that's weird. That sounds like a bug on her computer or whatever. And then I got an offer for a jacket. I accepted it and tried to send someone an invoice. And all the calculated shipping was blank. It said $0. So essentially, I had to go back to the listing, look at their zip code, and do the calculated shipping myself.
Right.
I'm in shock that eBay would take this
now,
away.
Anytime someone does combine, an
offer,
ask for an invoice because of combined to ship things or an offer, we now have to manually figure that out.
Even though it's on the listing, right. It's so weird to me that eBay would take that away. It makes zero sense.
So the person that emailed us about it said she called eBay, and just the person that she talked to said eBay did it because it was not that eBay was not calculating things correctly sometimes, and so eBay just wanted to get out of the business. But that doesn't make sense because it's just calculated shipping.
Calculated shipping.
I feel like it's one of those answers that some of those customer reps just make up because they're just trying to figure it out.
I wonder if it's a glitch that eBay hasn't fixed. Yeah. And you know what? This is kind of funny to say. I would love to email Griff and be like, what is going on with this? I just haven't done it yet.
It's a Griff at Griff.com.
No, it's Griff at eBay.com. Well, so I'm curious if anyone else has heard anything, because that's the craziest thing I've ever heard eBay would do on purpose. Yeah. That makes no sense. Okay, moving on.
Okay. I'm going to start this up. I'm going to tee it off, and then Ryan's going to take this.
Okay.
So we had a buyer who also is a seller.
Yes.
She bought something from us. It was like a piece of pottery.
It was a very delicate piece of porcelain artwork.
And she left us bad feedback, and her reasoning was our shipping fees were too high. Okay, Ryan, go.
Okay, so here's the deal. This woman asked to do a best offer on this piece of porcelain. It's a Royal Ducks figurine of Gandhi. It's a commissioned piece. Okay. She said, I'll give you $350 because the shipping price is a little bit high. And I said, no problem. Because I think I had $395 on it. I was like, oh, it's no problem, right? Great. So clearly she knows what the shipping is. And then she writes to me when she gets it. And she says, I can't believe how much you charged me for shipping. Blah, blah, blah. Just going on and on.
And this was in the depths of our flu. So I was downstairs on the couch, immobilized. And Ryan was upstairs in bed, immobilized.
Yeah.
And so to appease her, Ryan just said, it's no problem. Here's a refund.
I gave her a partial refund.
Partial
of the basically
refund.
50%
right.
back. And I explained to her, and what's funny is she's a seller of porcelain objects. So I said, look, this was a large piece. It was delicate. I had to pack. It took me a while to pack. I had to put insurance on it, and I had to custom make the box.
Bubble wrap,
Just all that stuff. And she was super rude about it.
And she got a refund and even a message and says, I'm still not happy.
Yeah.
It doesn't take you that long. I sell things too.
Your time must be worth so much money. Blah,
and
blah,
so we didn't hear from her for a while. And it took her about 2 weeks, and she finally gave us bad feedback.
Yeah, negative.
Ryan was very upset that morning. It was a bad morning for me.
Yeah.
It's just like...
I was really mad.
eBay is a very emotional thing sometimes. But I encourage you to call.
So, I called eBay. I explained to them everything I just explained to you guys.
Very undramatic.
Very
professional.
Very professionally. I wasn't mad. I was just like, this is the deal. She agreed to the shipping. I even gave her my handling feedback after she complained, and she still left me negative feedback. And they removed it.
Yep.
Yay!
And so we wanted, and Ryan had been like, I want to message her and tell her.
I didn't. I really wanted to, though.
Don't kick the nest,
Yeah.
And it's funny. Some people may remember I bought something on eBay. And I agreed, because I bought it. And I
agreed to the shipping.
It means I agreed to how much her shipping was. And then I started harassing her that it was too high. Because it was too high. But... And the seller was smart. She just canceled the order because she saw that I was a problem. So I have to see. No, now I see the other side. Like I was wrong in doing that.
Although I will say it's two different things when you're selling a very expensive porcelain object versus a brass belt buckle.
Right.
That goes in a padded envelope.
Right. It's my thing. There's no handling fees to be done. But,
yeah.
Okay. We have a couple more things. We sold an Apple computer monitor last week or something.
Yeah, it was last week.
And, look, we hate selling electronics for this exact reason. It was a big monitor. It was one of those vintage, when... From the early 2000s. When Apple was one of the first ones that came out, it's with those flat screens.
The flat screen, yeah.
And
Cinema display.
It's one of those. The thing is, it's a vintage piece of electronics. I mean, a vintage these days. And so it takes a special...
It's an adapter.
Adapter to connect it to a computer these days, and he wrote to us and says, I want to return it.
It doesn't work. It won't turn on.
And so we were upset because basically, if he pushes this, we'll just give him his money back because I don't want the thing back.
Yeah, if it doesn't work. But so here's the deal. I said, look, you need a very special adapter that has a power cord. It's this one on eBay. And he did admit in the messages, he said, I probably have a bad adapter.
Right. This was my thing that I wanted to do. Because I see a lot of people on as Reddit forums talk about selling video games. And they're always complaining about people returning things because they don't know how to turn it on or something.
Yeah, it's user error.
So my strategy was, let's ask him what he's doing and get him to admit an error. And he did that. He said, yeah, I think the problem is because I don't have the right adapter, and that's why it's working. So we said, well, buy the adapter.
Yeah.
And then let's talk. So we're hoping that...
I hope he gets a better adapter.
So at least he's putting forth the effort and wanting to get it to fix. But also, if he does return it, I don't know, we can try... Or if he pushes the return, maybe we could call eBay and just see what they say.
Yeah.
He's admitting he doesn't know how to get it to work or whatever.
Right. Last thing. So this was a little bit of an issue. We sold this sprinkler hose spray thing on eBay, but we had actually sent it to Amazon, and it had just sold right before that,
The day
before. Okay, now, so here's the deal. Yeah, but still, I was like, I thought I'd at least have 12 hours to end this thing on eBay. No. So the good thing was someone else had it on FBA for even a little bit cheaper. So I did basically drop shipping. I was like, I'll just pay for it. I have Prime right now, so I'll have it shipped directly to this person. No problem. It's the exact same one. What I did after that, an hour later, I was like, anything we sent into Amazon that's also on eBay, basically we pulled stuff out of our inventory to send to Amazon. I'm ending it. Because it's just too much hassle to be like, was that on eBay? Oh, I got to check. Oh, now I got to end it. Oops, someone bought it by accident. I'm like, no. Anything we sent in. So I just went.
We now have a Chinese wall in between eBay and Amazon.
It's just totally separate. So you don't have to think about it.
It's interesting that, we drop shipped that item, but we still made $4 or $5.
We made some money. I wouldn't want to.
On the sale.
Yeah, because it was $4 less than my price, and it was free shipping.
Right,
and so
right. I mean, Amazon Prime would probably harass us if we did that too much.
But I had to get that out.
But it isn't. But it is interesting where I can see why the over enthusiastic, people that try and sell you those get rich quick courses are all about just list stuff on eBay. And you don't even have to own it, and when someone buys it, you
buy it on Prime.
You just buy it somewhere else and have it shipped to them.
Yeah, look, I have had people do that when I bought stuff before. Yeah. So, okay, news.
All right, some news, and these are a lot of links that people have sent us about selling online. Someone sent us a link to why old things don't die. It's basically, the answer is old things to young people are new.
Right,
so exactly. Things like we've been talking about it, like tapes.
Yeah, cassette tapes.
Cassette tapes, LPs,
yes.
Old computers, all these things. Like they were in the article, they were like, this guy has a album store, and he's like, yeah, young people come in who are, 18 years old, and I have a turntable.
And they're like...
And they don't know how to, work the LP. And then, I show them, you start at the beginning, and the music plays, and they're just like, wow, it's just...
I can't believe it.
It's just,
it's so funny.
I mean, it does admit that eventually there are technologies that do just die.
8 tracks.
But no, even 8 tracks.
I know. I'm just saying, there's some technologies that are too bulky. And okay, so Denise wrote in and told us that eBay is getting into shipping for you. Is that correct?
Yeah, and so we'll put these links on the blog. So in San Francisco, LA, New York, and Chicago, in just those 4 places, they're doing this trial program where if you're selling something on eBay and you don't want to ship it because how do you get the box? It's so complicated.
It's so complicated.
They're now partnering with one of these startups.
It's called Ship with a Y, of course.
Where for $5, someone will come to at your door, get the item, and they'll ship it for you. Wow. I'm assuming it's $5 to pick it up plus
the price,
the cost to ship it. So,
exactly.
And to me, it sounds like it's all about eBay's just trying to compete with these buyers that are just cleaning out their closet. So not people like us that sell for a living. It's people who, there's all these apps now where you can sell your clothes.
Right.
Like Poshmark. Right. So it's like, girls just trying to sell their extra shoes.
Right.
So, but they don't want to deal with the complications of shipping.
Shipping. Well, no, I mean, truly, we get a lot of messages from people who are just starting out who are like, what do I have no idea how to ship this. What's the best way to ship it? Right. And you're like, I totally get that because I've memorized it by now.
But just imagine that though. If people are selling new iPhones, it might be worth it. But I mean, $5 for the pickup plus they probably charge you for the box and bubble wrap and the shipping,
and the shipping price.
I mean, when all's said and done, it could be $20. So you have to be selling pretty high dollar items to make that work. But anyway, that's just my thing. And then Margaret sent us a link, which I can't believe.
I can't believe this either.
And everyone says they can't believe it. But a USPS, the United States postal service, their first class stamps are going down. And
has that ever happened?
Yep, it happened like in the early 1900s, they said. But this is the most it's ever gone down when you talk about inflation. So it's going to go down to 47 cents from 49 cents.
Right, it's 49 cents now. So it's going down for 2 cents. Did they say why?
Yeah, because, I mean, and this is the thing about, especially those people that don't live in America, that our postal service is just in a really weird position, where it's not a government agency. Like, the government does not pay for the post office like everyone thinks it does. It's private, but it's got a government body regulating it.
An oversight.
And so Congress has to vote when big things changes. And so this is what it was. It was a government agency that was like, you guys need to bring your price down. Even though you need money and people seem to be okay with paying it, we're going to make you... And then they'll have to raise it again in a couple of years. So people are like,
why? That's very strange. Yeah, so the post office is this very strange hybrid of a private entity that's overseen by the government.
They can't, like a private company, they can't make their own rules and say, we're going to cut Saturday pickups or, we're going to raise our price to it's whatever we want it to. Anything they want to do, they have to get it approved.
It's very strange. It's very strange. Yeah. Look it up on Wikipedia and read about it. And
there's actually a couple really good blogs that are like pro post office, and they talk about all the ins and outs if you're a shipping nerd.
Super nerd.
And it's interesting. One, there are people who want to help the post office, and they're like, one way to do it would be to have postal banking, to have like all these little post offices that are all throughout the country, have them be little banks where you can do savings accounts and stuff like that.
That's
because
so interesting.
You can get your Social Security money and stuff like that.
I wonder why they haven't done that. That's probably a very hard thing to get started.
But but that's the one good thing about the postal service is that they're everywhere.
They're everywhere, every town.
It's the only thing that has this great infrastructure, and they can get anything to anybody.
Right.
And if we allow that to collapse, I feel like people that live in rural areas are going to be the ones hit the hardest.
Yep.
Because if it's just private industry, private industries, it's like broadband. They're like, there's only like 1,000 people in this town. Like, why?
Like, we're not going to provide it.
Why should we send, high-speed bandwidth there? It's not worth it to us,
I'm telling you that there are parts of our county that we looked at to buy property where they will not send broadband.
Right.
They will not send it there.
Because, again, just we're talking about the postal service, but it's broadband too.
Yeah.
If everything's just free a market, that means a free market, it has to make sense as far as a profit goes.
Right, exactly.
But whereas when things are run where it's about building community, then that means it's like when they put, when the electric service came to America.
Right.
There were parts of America that were subsidized,
Right.
But then that helped, people's education and ability to store food. So I don't know. It's just like this. It's the danger of just having this the free market. It's great. I love it. eBay's free market. We love the free market.
Right.
But at some point, if you want to build a society, can't just be the free market because people get crushed,
I feel like every time we talk about the post office, we go into some rant about society. I actually edited out that other rant from a couple weeks ago because I was like, this is way too detailed and ridiculous.
I guess it's just I guess a postal service is just one of those really concrete examples of what we could lose if we just let everything just be the free market. So.
Look, think about it. FedEx and UPS, if you're sending to a residential area, it costs more. They say, is this a business? And if you say no, they're like, I'm tacking on $3 extra. You're like, great.
Yeah.
Okay, things we learned in the comments. This section is way too long.
People had a lot of things to talk about this week, which is good. Non-paying buyers.
Yep.
This happens every several months. someone starts complaining about how they're having problems with people not paying. And normally it happens because you sell this really cool thing for a lot of money and you're really excited.
Yep.
And then they don't pay. And if you're like, that was $400 I could have made, you know? And so it's kind of like when it gets sold, it's this expectation and the money's been counted and you've spent it already, but then it never comes. And you know what? It happened to us last week. 2 things in a row got sold for good amounts of cash. It was like $50 and something else. I mean, it was
a $40 painting and a $75 jacket on the same day, and they have never paid. And 2 different people.
You know, that we're just about to close the cases, but you know, for us, it's just like the benefits of make offer outweigh the disappointments. You know,
yes.
Like for the most part, 90% of people pay, maybe even more. But every so often, we'll get this run of like non-paying buyers and. What are you going to do about it? It's better than when we weren't doing make offer. I feel like we sold fewer items.
Right, right, exactly.
People were talking about the danger of them putting stuff on their porch.
For the post office.
And really, I guess, you know, it all really depends on its neighborhood. I mean, if you live in like an urban area where there's a lot of foot traffic and there's a lot of like kind of chaos.
And and you have just like an open porch without a door on it. I mean,
I can imagine that being a problem.
I would never leave my stuff there.
I mean, we have a very low traffic street where, you know, any stranger that walks or drives into our neighborhood is instantly recognized, you know, like, as like a stranger.
Right.
So, you know, we have no concern about people.
And we have an enclosed porch. So I have stuff, you know, with a door shut. You know, obviously the door's not locked, but...
And you know, people talk about in urban areas, people that can't put stuff on their porch or they live in an apartment, they just talk about on their lunch break, they just take all their items out of their car and they go to the post office and there's always a big line. But if you make a relationship, they'll always be like, just put it on the
counter
and we'll
scan it.
Yeah. And that's all good, you know.
Yeah. Or it also, someone was saying, my post office, like, they get really cranky about all my packages, and someone was like, but do you have another post office, like, on the other side of town? Like, go there, and they might be, you know, a little more complimentary to your stuff.
Someone was talking about how we talked about it last week, about selling old shoes.
Yes.
That we actually really do well with, you know, finding shoes for $3 and selling them sometimes for $50 plus, but easily $30.
Oh yeah.
And someone came on like, shoes are so gross. I can't believe someone would, you know, buy an old pair of shoes and I don't want to touch them. And I think that, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's just a germ phobia kind of person, which is cool. Germs do exist, but I mean, I find when we look at shoes for sale, these are shoes that have not been worn in months, if not longer.
Yes.
And it's like shoes that people bought once, they wore them a couple times, threw them in the back of its closet, bought more shoes going back in the closet. So they're pulling shoes out that just have not been worn in a long time.
Right, and they donate them.
I mean...
Unless you're buying really trash shoes.
Yeah.
Which generally we aren't.
But even the ones that are trashed, they're more just like dirty and well worn. I don't think I've ever picked up a pair of shoes where it's been just...
It smells bad.
Which is strange. I would think like that would happen. But maybe, you know, a thrift store is probably filter out those kind of shoes.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So, I don't know. It's not a big deal for us. And I also, when I first started, I was like, are people going to buy these things? People totally buy them. Used shoes.
And it's so funny.
I buy shoes.
I buy used shoes. I never, ever buy new shoes now. Right. I have one pair of shoes I bought new for, like, deep discount. But what's funny is I never thought of it as gross or weird until other people said it.
Right.
Like, we had friends that came over when we were redoing our house that we live in, and they were like, you sell used shoes. Like, this is what you're making your money on. And we're like, yeah, why? What? And they're like, other people wore these on their feet. And we're like, yeah. And you know what's funny? And then she bought a pair from me. So it's really funny.
Yep. We turned her. And then we were talking about earlier, someone was talking about how their sales had stalled.
Yeah.
this week, and ours had been slow as well until the very end of the week. But then other people came on the blog and they were saying like they've been having great sales.
Yeah,
it was slow a week ago, and now it's doing really good. And I just think we just all have to remember that eBay is not the same for everybody.
Yeah,
eBay is gigantic. We all have different things for sale. It's going to be slow sometimes, good for other people. There's, no conspiracies, and just sometimes no one wants your particular stuff.
And then sometimes everybody wants your stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, what our coming week will be like. I do want to put a flag in the ground. This is important for us to talk about between ourselves, Ryan.
Yes.
We have 4 weeks.
I hate the countdown.
It's 4 weeks and 3 days before we leave for the West Coast.
Yes.
Where we're going to be gone for almost a month.
Yes.
So we have 4 weeks. I have a little schedule for us myself of all the stuff I want to photograph before we do. So I'm going to we have like 3 huge piles of shoes.
Yes.
I have 4 big boxes of fabric. I mean, I don't know. I'll see how much I can do, but that's my goal.
Let's see. My goal this week, I have some Amazon stuff that I have.
I would love to get all that stuff sent into Amazon.
Yeah, I need to send that stuff in. Hopefully they won't get rejected. I don't think so, though. And then I really need to just list on eBay because I listed like 40 hats on our second store this week.
But if we're going to be gone for 4 weeks, there's a very good chance we're not going to list any while we're gone.
Right.
I mean, sometimes we do. But sometimes we don't. So yeah, it would be good to list them because we haven't been doing much the past 6 weeks. So and then if we're going to be another 4 weeks, it'd be good to
list something in our main store is what I need to do.
And we're getting our friend ready to take over our rental business while we're gone. So, that's another thing we're doing.
Yep. Yes, that's something that needs to get done. So,
all right, so we're going to answer questions that people either called or emailed in to us.
The phone number is 540-407-8486. You have 3 minutes to leave a message, and we will play it on the podcast.
Hey, Jay and Ryan. My name's Gary, and I've been listening for about a year now. I've been a seller on eBay since 2004, but just took it serious sometime last spring, and I had a really good year. But I'm starting to get concerned. I work a full-time job, 45 hours a week. I do this in my spare time, probably another 20 or 25 hours a week. And I've been really thinking about quitting my job and doing this full-time, but every time I get to that point, something scares me. I had a real nice electronics niche, and now it seems like everybody knows about it, so I can't get anything cheap enough to make it worth my time to flip on eBay. So I found another one, at least I thought, in clothing, and I went to buy something yesterday, and it would have been a really nice return. It would have been like a 500% return. And as I exchanged the money with the person, they told me, hey, I just looked this up on eBay, and I saw that it's going for $200 on there. And it just got me to thinking that, is this gravy train going to end sometime? Do you guys ever worry that at some point everybody's going to know that they can make more money on eBay and that they're going to just charge what eBay sold prices are? Or they're just going to go there and, the reselling market is just going to dry up at some point. It's just like, man, the whole year that I've done this, I've had to fight against this everywhere I go. And if you know anything about Goodwill, it's almost a waste of time to go there anymore because they just charge eBay prices. So I just wondered if you guys ever thought about that and think that, there is an end to this at some point. I hate to think that there is, but you guys have been in this game a lot longer, so I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Thanks.
Okay, this was a question I talked about. It's probably my favorite question that someone has sent in.
Right.
Because this sounds exactly kind of the way I was thinking in our first a year or two of eBay. I mean, probably the first 2 or 3 years I would have this fear.
Yes.
And for me, the fear was, what if this stops?
Right.
You know, we're able to go out and find a carload of stuff for cheap. We're bringing bags home, and we're really depending on this. But what happens if this stops?
Right.
And there's no more stuff, or you know, God forbid, we do a podcast and then people start doing what we do, and then all the stuff is gone.
Right.
You know? And the answer is a couple things. Number one is, I mean, it's not going to end for another generation just because we live in America. It is a place of abundance and waste, and you know, the baby boomers have lived in a time of great advancement and wealth. There are housefuls of stuff, barns of stuff, and as they downsize and die off, all that stuff is going on to the market. So
absolutely,
we're good, I think, for a lifetime.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about, you know, more people being aware of the internet and searching prices, I mean, that's true. We have it's noticed that.
Yes.
But still, there's still too much stuff.
I mean, like one of our favorite thrift stores in the world just started, and this has been happening to a lot of thrift stores and auctions, have started selling on eBay. Crazy! They list so much stuff on eBay.
They hired,
and we
like,
still find stuff to buy.
They actually hired 4 people to list on eBay, and so we actually check out their eBay store, and we're like, "Ooh, I would have bought that."
Right, but it's too expensive now.
But they still have stuff because it's just too much stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
that's what I'm saying. It's like, and you know, auction houses that are only doing online auctions, we still find stuff from them. You know.
And then the last thing I'll say about this guy, who again, I love this.
Yeah.
It's question. He made it seem like he had a niche that he depended on.
Right.
Like maybe there was like a game cartridge that he would only buy and he was able to sell it. We cannot depend on any one thing.
Right.
Like that's why we have kind of the shotgun approach.
Right.
We buy all kinds of things and sell all kinds of things.
And you cannot depend on one place to source. There were a couple places that we depended on, and you know, a couple auctions, a couple thrift stores, and then one day they're just gone. Right. Or literally, like a couple places, one of our favorite auction houses and one of our favorite thrift stores, they just shut their doors.
Right.
And you're like, you got to pivot. You just got to be like, okay, let's go over here. What do they have?
Right. And you know, there are times where we're like, hey, we keep finding this item, it always sells real well, and then suddenly it'll just stop selling well,
right?
Because it gets out of fashion, or like he says, other people start finding it. Like I remember when we first started, Ryan would sell, it's so weird, black like pirate slouch boots
all the time. I found them all the time,
like basic edition. Like it didn't matter, it was the style, it didn't matter the quality, it was the style, and they would always sell for like $30 or more.
Yep.
And then it just went out of style.
Yeah.
And
I still see girls wearing them, but like...
not like the old days.
Not like back, you know.
And we just don't buy those anymore, and now we buy other things.
Yeah, exactly.
What's up, Trash Elves? It's your old buddy Jack calling. I just wanted to thank you for your recent explanation on one of your podcasts about shell cordovan shoes, because I found my first pair today at the thrift store for $5. Vintage, made in the USA with a union tag on the inside, no brand that I can see, and they have perfect soles on them because somebody resold them. They're gorgeous. I would have bought them anyway because I knew they were special, but I wouldn't know what they were without your podcast and your explanation. So I just wanted to give you a little shout out. You do such a service to the reselling community. It's just odd. I mean, there's just so much that people learn from you guys. Y'all really do a great job. And the fact that you have all these, the new podcasts, and you're in all these projects, and now you're doing Amazon, and you're renovating another house, I just don't know how you do it. But anyway, thanks so much. Talk to you later.
Hi, Jack.
Number one, Jack. Hi, how are you? Yes, other people have said the same thing. We talked about shell cordovan.
And I showed on the video how you know.
Right, and it's, you know, sometimes they look like wingtips, just like regular wingtips.
They look plastic almost.
But they just have this super shiny,
no wrinkles.
Those are shell cordovan. You know, they're shoes that probably anyone would buy anyway because they do look cool. But it's the difference between selling them for $30 or $50 versus $300 plus. So it's good to see that. And what we would do in the early days when we weren't exactly sure, we would even take them to like a cobbler
and ask.
Do they call them cobblers?
A cobbler or
a shoe repair?
Shoe repair. And what's great is one time we bought 2 pair, and we were somewhere in Pennsylvania, and we drove by this cobbler store, and we walked in, we put them on the thing, and he looks down, and then he looks up, and he goes, "Do you know what these are?" And we go, "Are they shell cordovan?" He's like, "Yes." It was and we're like, "Oh, good."
Yeah. And we're like, "Thanks."
He was he was probably like, "What?" Look, I just bought them for $1.
And then the last thing Jack says, how do we do everything we do? And, people are like, how do you... Look, the answer is this. When you don't have a full-time job, you have a lot of time, So we don't do eBay every single day. There are days where we're like, okay, our eBay stores, it's cranking along. Let's do this today, you know? And
basically, I mean, look, we just do one thing after another. Like, our day is split up into all these different things.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to do this. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to do this other thing. If I get tired of doing that, I'll do this other thing.
I wonder, because we have no idea who is hearing this and the percentage of, like, who's a full-time seller, who has a job.
Right.
I sometimes get a sense of there's many more people that have jobs and sell on eBay just kind of part-time.
Yeah.
And, which is amazing to me, and they have kids. I mean, I'm like... you people, how do you sell on eBay with a full-time job and children? That's amazing to me.
Yes, exactly.
But those of us who sell on full-time, we've quit our jobs, especially if we don't have kids. I mean, it's just like you can get a lot done. Like we're just when we don't have to do what other people tell us to do, and we can do what we want to do. I just love it.
Do a lot of stuff.
So productive.
Yeah, I mean, when we had the flu for a week and a half plus. It was just amazing. Like, I forgot how much stuff we got done during the day on regular non-sick days because I'm like, I can't do anything. I can't do a single thing. I was able to pack stuff every day because I was, like, drugged up on Dayquil, but it's just amazing how much you can get done in a day when it's your own schedule,
Hi, I am calling from Oklahoma. And I want to tell you, first of all, I absolutely love your show. I have been doing eBay on and off, part-time, really since they started, way back when in the 90s, when I would communicate with buyers through just my private email and, the days of cash and money orders and all of that. And, man, it has brought me through some tough times, and I put it away during good times. And as we know, life is a roller coaster, so tough times again, and not really tough, but I'm paying off student loan debt, and I want to do it through eBay. But my daughter also has student loan debt. She is 27. Yes, I'm in my 50s. And I want to bring her in with me. And I know you've touched on this somewhere in your hundreds of podcasts, but I cannot find it. I'm wondering if you have any advice on how to bring her in a way that she will get paid, but that she has to carry her own weight as far as picking and putting money into the business herself. I don't want to be mom in this. I want to be a partner. So any advice on that is greatly appreciated. I also wanted to let you know that I have a rental house myself. We actually have someone in there that are long-term renters, and we just kind of stumbled upon this, and it's been great. They've been in there for about 3 years now. We partnered up with a local community agency that houses people with disabilities. So it's 3 adult women, and they have a house mom, and they're not allowed to have pets. They're not allowed to have, they're not allowed to cook. The house mom has to do it. They have somebody who comes in and takes care of the lawn. They have somebody who comes in and makes sure that the living conditions are appropriate and that they're cleaning. It's amazing. So I just wanted to put that out there as a possibility. We got them because the house mom was looking for a 4-bedroom house. She had been sleeping on the couch at their previous rental house for 10 years. So they agreed that it was time for her to have her own room because they're there 24/7.
That is very cool.
Yep, it's a good question. Now, we have to say, I mean, we've never hired anyone. We don't have kids, so we don't know exactly how to get someone else involved in eBay.
Right.
But this is my thinking. I mean, we love the idea of if we did have kids, we would totally get them involved in eBay. Because, when I was a kid, when I turned 15, started getting jobs, I worked at a lot of crummy jobs, sandwich shops and, burger joints. And, I think I wish that I had been taught how to sell online because, you do so well. I mean, like there's a guy, Dan, who listened to our podcast. We interviewed him.
Yeah. Him
and his wife work full time. They have a gigantic store bigger than our store.
Yeah. Because
he's hired people to photograph and a list for him. And I feel like one reason is because he started to sell on eBay when he was in high school.
Right.
He's younger than we are. So
right.
There was actually eBay back then.
Right.
And so by the time he graduated from college and got jobs, he already knew how to run this other business. And so that's amazing. I think the way to do it is just first get her involved in your own store.
Right.
Like do what people do. Pay her every time she puts something up on eBay. And then you just got to see if she's got the natural talent for it. Like, that's the thing about this. Like, you either have to love scavenging or not.
Right.
If she's like, Mom, it's another thrift store. Who cares?
Right. Or is she... The cool thing, too, about having young people work for you is she is going to know what the trends are with people her age and a little bit older. Like... What's the cool look? What's the cool shoes? What's the cool, whatever, music?
Yeah. I just don't know. I think the best any of us can do is get people involved and just see if they get excited. Like, I always remember there was like a newspaper article or a radio story about this young girl in Florida.
Yes.
Where it was at the bottom of the market, there are foreclosures all around her. People were getting rid of furniture in these foreclosures, and she would go and get the furniture and sell it on Craigslist.
Right.
And then she saved up enough money, like $5,000, for her and her mom to buy one of these foreclosure houses for like $10,000.
And she would rent it out to like college age kids.
That's the thing. Like,
it's incredible.
You just have to either love it or not.
Right.
So.
Hey, Jay and Ryan, this is Len, the Potter's Pickers. I first want to say thanks for letting me post my What Sold videos, and I'm really enjoying watching everybody else's What Sold videos. I can't even watch haul videos anymore because it's like, people are like, oh, this will sell for this much money. Yeah, well, show me the video when it actually sells, and then I'll be impressed. Anyhow, I want to talk to you guys about Buy It Now Best Offer. I've been doing this for quite some time, but it seems like a couple times a week I have items that I get offers on and I accept them, and then the buyer never follows through and I can't leave any kind of feedback or anything. It just seems like it goes through the unpaid item case, I get my final value fees back, etc. But it always seems to be on my high dollar items and items that have like multiple watchers. It's really frustrating. And I don't know why eBay doesn't do something where it forces the customer, the buyer, to commit, either with a credit card or with their PayPal, that if the offer is accepted, they have to have that money available, or else they can't make an offer. Do you know if is eBay doing anything to do that? Because I had a $1,000 piece of art this happened with, a $150 pair of shoes this week that it's happening with now. I have an unpaid item case. It's really frustrating, and it's making me rethink if I want to do the best offer thing, because probably half of the things I get offers for never get paid on. So wondering if that's your experience and if you know any insider scoop. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Hey, Lynn. We do now. I mean, we're all about it. As Ryan said, I would love to see other people post what sells.
Look, I love seeing other people's what sells videos. I'm like learning so much stuff from people.
Yeah.
So keep posting them, please.
Yep, so it's good. And we talked about that earlier about people not paying.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we can all imagine how eBay could make people do it. So like if you do an offer, you have to have the money in your PayPal account,
and it takes it out.
And then eBay can put a hold on that amount of money. So if you
Yeah.
accept the offer, it automatically. But the thing is, it's built for the buyer, and so they would rather hassle the seller than to, maybe cut down on sales because people don't have money in their account. I don't know.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
The thing is, I think it comes in waves, like returns come in waves. But also, if you have a good quality item, it's going to sell again. Like, I have a jacket and a painting that I need to do the unpaid item. I need to end the unpaid item today and relist them. They'll sell again. Yeah. Someone else will buy them.
I mean, I think, too, we always say do the numbers. I mean, be really honest. Go back the past 90 days. Look at how many things that you took offers for. And look at how many things weren't paid for.
Right.
And I think you'll find it's just like when people buy things from you and then it's return them.
The percentage.
I was just checking out its return rate's like 2.5%. So it's like 2 or 3 things out of every 100.
It feels like more.
I'll take that every day.
It reminds me of like negative feedback. When you get negative feedback, like I lose sleep at night.
Right.
But I'll get 100 positive feedback, and I don't even look. Right. I don't even read them.
Right.
So you're
accentuate the positive, right?
Exactly.
Have an attitude of gratitude. So I think too the reason why people bring this up is because again sometimes there'll be that one sale. You're really excited to buy it. It's a big amount of money, and when they don't pay, it's almost
sucks.
like you lost that cash.
Yeah, it feels like it.
We try not to count our money until it's actually in our PayPal account.
Exactly.
Hi, Jay and Ryan. This is Alex. I have always sold on Buy It Now. I don't do auctions. And so I listen to your podcast all the time, and I thought, well, I'll try the make an offer on my items, especially the ones that have been around for a while, and see what happens. Well, I'm getting a tsunami of lowball offers. For example, $65 on a $300 necklace. And I just wonder if that happens to you and how you handle it. Do you just decline it? Do you ignore it? It seems pointless to me to make a counter offer when somebody is lowballing like that. And so I'm beginning to question whether or not I should even make an offer on my items. So anyway, could you comment on that? I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
This is just a choice. We did just Buy It Now for a long time.
Right.
And didn't put its make offer. And then we realized we could put its make offer.
Yeah.
I was like, let's try it. Yeah. And we suddenly... Our sales rose by over 25%, and we still many of our sales are its make offer.
A lot of
now people say, well, would people have bought it anyway? And just because you put make offer, it would have paid you $100, but now you're accepting $75, so you're losing $75.
We'll never know.
The only way to do that is to test it, like turn it on, turn it off, and see. And give it enough time. Do like 2 months with make offer, 2 months without its make offer, and see what you think. Now her problem of is lowball offers. I mean, for us, it doesn't bother us.
We just counter.
We love to get some action.
Right.
The worst thing for us to go through a whole day without any sales or messages or offers. So if people are sending lowball offers, I don't care. I'll just counter. It doesn't cost me anything. If it really bothers you, you can do what our friend, Mikey does. You can put the automatic counter offers.
Yeah, so what happens is this. When you're listing and you click best offer on your listing, you can say automatically decline if it's under X amount. So if you have a $300 item and you're like, I will not take anything under $200, you can specify that. So that someone's like, oh, $50. Automatically it declines them.
And it doesn't tell you.
It doesn't tell you. You never see it.
Right. But
you don't have to bother with it.
Right. So, and that's only if you don't want to be participating in the counteroffer.
Right. So for us, lowball offers, I mean, sometimes we'll look at them and we'll be like, come on, someone's offering $5 on a $50 item. You're like, what do they think?
It happened to us.
It happened to us like 5 minutes ago.
Today. But you know what? It makes us feel good that things are happening.
Yeah, something's happening. And so you're just like, I'll just counter. Yeah. That's it.
This is Craig calling from Bremerton, Washington. Big concern. I'm preparing to set up a store. I'm doing it as we speak, propagating the store. But once I get the store open and ready to go, I'm concerned about if I get inundated with massive orders at once to where I cannot fulfill them in time. How do you folks deal with a barrage of orders at once when you have a time limit on shipping them out? Just a concern on my part. Anyway, love your program so much. You guys are such a dream. So I'll wait and hear what you folks say on how to prepare for a barrage. It's only dreaming that would happen, but it very well may. I'm going to put out about 950 items at once. So I'll hold tight and hear what you have to say. Thank you so much.
Okay, Craig, this is also a really good question too.
Yeah.
Although I didn't quite have the same concern as you did when we first started, but kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, number one, it's kind of amazing you'll be able to put out 900 items at one time. Like, I'd love to kind of hear how that's going to happen. Like, do you have a software where you're just going to import a bunch of like Excel sheets?
Yeah, like what?
Instead of just doing it one by one. But I mean, I've always thought about that. I mean, we have like almost 4,000 items. What happens? Like, it could conceivably happen where we could sell 2,000 items at one time.
Or someone comes in our store and buys 100 items from us.
Like, why doesn't it happen?
What would I do? I'd be like, I don't even know how to calculate shipping for this.
Well, I mean, number one to me is I'm not kind of concerned about how I would ship this stuff. To me, that's a luxury problem if you sell 100 things, 500 things in one day. I mean, we would just message people and say, like, it's going to be a while. I would bring my neighbor in and say, help me pack. I mean, I don't know. We would figure it out. I'm just wondering why it doesn't happen. Like, why? I mean, I think the most we've ever sold in one day might have been 25 things.
I mean, I don't even know if that's ever happened.
Yeah, I would think, like, if we sold 12 things.
Right.
Yesterday.
Right.
I mean, I think
like
over
in a
20
Christmas
things,
season. Yeah.
But it does happen like on like Amazon, and you'll see those FBA people, especially around it's Christmas time, they'll show their stats and they sell like, 300 things in one day, mainly because it's like new toys, things that people really want. If you're like us and are selling vintagey weird things, I mean, no one's ever going to want 1,000 of our random odd things.
That'd be real weird.
It just doesn't happen. I'm actually kind of amazed the other way that we can even get 10 people a day to buy random old tea kettles and stamps and,
like
whatever, shoehorns. It's like...
It's just like, what?
I would not be worried about if you put up 900 items, don't be worried about people buying out at your whole inventory. If it happens, it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a luxury problem.
Okay, that's it for this week. You can check out our blog at scavengerlife.com for any links we talked, and you can also join the conversation there.
You can leave a question or a comment on our voicemail line on something you heard or something you think about. The phone number is 540-407-8486. We post an episode every Sunday night or Monday morning, depending on our schedule. On Wednesday, we post our What Sells video that shows all the items that we sell and how much we sold them for.
You can subscribe to us through iTunes or through YouTube, so you'll always get the latest podcast. You can listen to our other podcast at shampooandbooze.com. We were talking earlier about like our struggles and excitement about having another rental, so we've kind of been talking about that there.
And if you want, you can rent our vacation farmhouse, and we have a link to that on the blog.
Yeah, it's spring and summertime. If you're looking for some mountain hiking,
come on by.
Come on by.
Okay, this podcast is ending in 3, 2, 1. Bye.
Bye.